So I get the fun job of transitioning us from talking a little bit about the future of the workforce in the essence of AI to talking about the future generation of the workforce. And I'm really excited to talk with these two amazing young leaders who have just blown it away when it comes to their achievements early in life. And of course, over the last couple of days, we've had a number of discussions around the importance of striving for better opportunities for everyone, but particularly for Gen Z. And so, I'm really excited about the conversation today, but I want to start with the elephant in the room first, because I feel like whenever we talk about Gen Z today, we get a lot of adjectives. They're lazy, they're entitled, they're too woke, they don't want to work. I can't tell you how many of this I've personally heard, but I'm sure everyone in the room has also heard. And of course, this is something that dogs every generation, especially as they're entering the workforce. But I'm curious, guys, what are some of the biggest misconceptions that you've heard or experienced about Gen Z? Kristy, I'm going to start with you.
Yeah, thank you so much for asking that question. I feel like one of the biggest misconceptions is that we don't want to work and that we don't actually, we want this instant gratification, but we actually see that there's so many more people in Gen Z that are becoming entrepreneurs, who are freelancers, and who will quit a job if they don't feel like it's suiting them right. So it's not that people don't want to work, they just don't want to work for a company or organization that makes them feel bad about themselves. They want to work. They want to work somewhere where they actually feel included, supported, getting the actual mentorship they need to build the career that they want. And unfortunately, a lot of companies and organizations are missing the mark and are staying in the status quo and feeling like Gen Z are just lazy and don't want to work, when actually they're the ones creating the system and the space that makes them not want to work there. So yeah, I just wanted to start off with that.
I love it. Mayor Smith, what misunderstandings, misrepresentations have you sort of encountered?
Well, I kind of agree with Kristy on the misconception of a lot of people say the young people are lazy, they don't want to do the work. It's just the work environment. Since I became mayor of Earl, Arkansas, my main goal is inclusion, about making sure that young people feel comfortable in the places they are. And so we've been providing that assistance for them, but I agree with Kristy.
Now, I want to stay with you for a second, because you're right, you are a mayor at such a young age, but it's interesting because I think you actually bring some really unique perspective around entering politics at a very young age, and particularly with a really important role within your community. So I'm kind of curious around your perspectives on getting into politics early, and what are some of the hurdles that you think are there that exist that maybe policy or just change of attitude might actually help get more young people very much more active?
So the challenges for me was when I ran my campaign, I had people tell me that I was too young, didn't know anything, and just graduated high school, of course. But I didn't allow what people told me negatively to define who I was trying to become at the age of 18. And the other obstacles is that I knew who I was trying to become. I knew there was going to be challenges, obstacles, and distraction. But I was grateful for the people that was positive to me, but I was even more grateful for the negative ones to make me stronger as a young 18-year-old boy. And so with being in politics, it's not easy. It's not an easy task. You just got to have the passion of changing your community, regardless of what people think. You just change the community or your community to the best fit the people.
Are there sacrifices that you've had to make in order to pursue this type of career?
Oh, of course. It's a lot of sacrifice that you have to make. Number one, are you willing to make a hard decision? That's one of the sacrifices. And second, you just got to have the momentum of getting in those places of where hard and it's difficult. But since my 6 months in office, it's been difficult challenges and obstacles. But I'd rather have challenges, obstacles, and distraction to make me stronger as an individual to move my community forward. My community is a small community, 2,000 people, and we're 40 years behind. And a lot of those people don't want to see change. But it's not about what they want to see, it's about the benefit of the city and the people that want to see the change in the community.
Absolutely. You talked a bit about bringing resources to your community, certainly as part of your policy proposals, and then also to your earlier points about making that community accessible and equitable for all. And I'm curious, when it comes to employing younger workers and bringing good, high-paying jobs to that rural community, and maybe perhaps stopping the brain drain that we see in so much of rural America, how are you sort of thinking about that and addressing that?
So the plan as far as for work, so this summer we have young people that are working in three different organizations to help get jobs because our city is not big enough to house a whole lot of people. And so we're working with different organizations to help bring young people to work. And in my community, a lot of people, young people that want to do work, they always ask me, Mayor, what is it that I can do or what can I do to work or be more successful? And so what I do as a mayor, I use my resources wisely. And so I partner with Arkansas Workforce Services and Development, adult education, to find some resources and some avenues to go down so the young people can have some kind of resources or something to look into to make sure and ensure that they're being successful.
Now, Kristy, you come at this from a bit of an employer perspective as the founder of Browngirl Green. Now, what's it like to be an employer, to be a boss at your age? And, what kind of challenges and opportunities perhaps have you run into?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So yeah, I currently run 2 companies. So I run Browngirl Green, which is a media platform focused on educating people about the climate crisis online. And I also run my other company, which is the Green Jobs Board, which is focused on getting especially young people and young people of color employed in climate and social impact jobs. We're trying to bridge the gap. And I would say, with that being said, both of those companies, I have employees that work for me to make that all possible. I think sometimes people think, as an entrepreneur and you're building these entities, you can do it by yourself. But I learned very early on that you have to have a team. Right. And so for me, I realized that who better to do that with than people my own age? And honestly, they've blown me out of the water. I feel like Green Jobs Board specifically was able to thrive because we're 6 young people of color really passionate about changing the internal systems that exist in the environmental and social impact fields. And we're all driven and hungry to see a cultural shift. We are fed up with how the current status quo system is, where getting a job to make a difference is gatekept. There's so many barriers to entry. There's so many things that you have to know that you didn't know you need to know, social capital that you might not have access to. And so we realize as young people that we needed to come together and build a platform that could solve that and to cut out the middleman. And I would say that has created a conducive environment where it's like, okay, like you are my employees, but you're also people that I view as my co-collaborators. Like we're building this vision together. It's not this weird hierarchical situation where I'm looking down on people. I actually view them as all having their own set of knowledge and leadership skills. And we're pretty assertive. Again, I think what's awesome about Gen Z is we're very transparent and direct and honest. If we don't like how things are going, we'll have honest conversations about it. We don't feel like we have to have these water cooler talks or backroom conversations. We're gonna send you a DM, we're gonna text you and be like, hey, that wasn't cool the way you said that. Or I didn't like how you talk to me right now. And we talk like that with each other. And I think that's really cool because it's we have that mutual respect where we're not gonna be out of pocket. We're gonna be transparent, be accountable. And as an employer, that actually makes me more excited to come to work. It makes me feel like I can invest my resources into their leadership to also grow. And that it's not just about me, that we are collaborating and growing a movement together.
Awesome. I love that. Now, of course, I got to ask the follow-up question, which is, you're talking about breaking through the status quo. And, the American workforce and corporate America in particular really do have sort of those habits and trends. Certainly the water cooler is one of them. Post-pandemic, that may not be quite as the case, but, certainly pre-pandemic. What challenges have you run into around trying to break through some of those status quo kind of issues at the heart of the American workforce?
Yeah, I think one of the big things that, like I said, Gen Z, we pride ourselves a lot on transparency, but I think that takes risks. That takes a lot of data, that takes risk taking, and I don't think that the way the current workforce system is built today is built to take those kinds of risks, because then you have to ask these hard questions about how we have failed people, especially young people, to want to be in the workforce, to stay in a company for X amount of years. We have to ask ourselves, how are we as employers creating the conditions that make that happen, right? So I'd say that's a big challenge, is like, but when you want to be really transparent, that requires so many resources, that requires taking a risk and putting your neck on the line to where cancel culture is real. And so you have to really think, finding that balance between creating that accountability and also staying true to your mission and knowing where are the compromises you're willing to make, and to always have that be an ongoing conversation. And that's not easy work. That is lifetime, long-term work. And I think especially young people want to see that commitment time and time again from employers and companies now, is that they're going to keep trying to do something different and innovate, and that'll make people want to stay. And I would say the other piece is just having the funding and resources to expand your reach. Again, a lot of the conversations I've heard during this conference is we need to bring people together from so many different stakeholders and perspectives, but being able to do that requires so many resources, and a lot of the software that we're using, the websites, the ways we're sharing that information is pretty outdated. So I would say it's important that people understand we need to update the user experience of these things. We need to update the ways we're communicating with each other. And I think young people using social media and using digital media platforms are doing that at such an accelerated rate, which is helping address some of those bits, for sure.
Now, Mayor Smith, obviously you come at this from a different perspective. You're building coalitions, but you are also working in the community. You're looking and working with employers. How do you think employers need to be looking at Gen Z? What are policies, what are strategies that they really need to be embracing in order to attract and retain talent?
So what we're doing in my community, we're starting an initiative called Grow Our Own. So we're growing our own paraprofessionals, barber entrepreneurs, and within that program, it gives them some kind of training when they go to a big manufacturing company, such as Bosch, where we have Hino, FedEx, and other places. But we want to give them the training to go to those places where they can succeed. Because a lot of companies are looking at the experience that a person has or the educational level. And I think, as a mayor, we should be looking at some other perspective besides the experience, because every day is a different experience. You learn something new. So it'll never be the same thing. And a lot of companies just looking at one target versus how can I look at these other different type of people and train them to get them on board with us. Versus I'm just looking for this, because you're looking for a specific type of people, you'll never find them. Because it's hard in my community to get people to work, because they don't have a lot of opportunities and they don't have the experience or the educational level to get there. So my job is to help them get to where they're trying to go by putting them in the Grow Our Own initiative to help grow them in areas they need the growth in. And I was a part of a conversation with the governor of Maryland, where in Maryland, they started an initiative called Opportunities at Work. And I think that is a great opportunity, a great idea to do that. Not only they don't need the college degree, but they're getting them the training that they need to get them into those spaces where they can hopefully make 6 figures in the next 5 years. And I think a lot of states need to look into that. And I think it'll be more beneficial to the young people, because a lot of young people don't have the money to go to college or to do whatever they want to do. And so if the state giving us the opportunity and those resources that, okay, I don't need a college degree. I can get this training for free, and I can use this training and go get me a 6-figure job. And so I think that'd be more beneficial versus we're looking at people that has it and people that don't have. And so my focus is for the people that don't have it and try to find them resources to get them implemented into those spaces like everyone else to make 6 figures.
Gotcha. Well, it sounds like you might be stealing some of those ideas and implementing them in your own community.
Right. I mean, it's good to, network and have those conversations and go back and have the conversation within my community, with my legislators, with my governors, saying, okay, what are we doing to get our people or the young people the greater resources that they need so they can be more successful? Because when it comes down to a leadership role, it's not about a political party you play, it's about you making the difference so your people can succeed in those areas. And so that's the main thing, so just start a conversation when I get back.
Yeah. Now, you both sort of touched on this in different ways in your comments so far, but, something that we hear a lot about Gen Z is how value-driven they are. Kristy, you actually, sort of work in a very value-driven organization, two organizations. Right. And I'm kind of curious, how does Gen Z's approach to topics like climate change and social issues differ from previous generations, and how does that affect the strategy that we need to maybe embrace in order to make sure that these folks are successful?
Yeah, I would say that the big word or conversation has been about greenwashing, right? There's a lot of companies and organizations that may claim sustainability but aren't actually walking the walk. They'll say 2020, 2030, 2050, 2100, we're all on fire, We don't have time for that. And so I think young people are waking up and being like, actually, what is the ways you're reporting X company about your, environmental, social governance? Like, how are you actually being held accountable to that? People are actually starting to understand that they need to look into that. And they care about that when they're going to an employer and they're going to ask, like, how are you addressing, your carbon footprint? How are you thinking about climate change in the long term? Which is exciting, right? But at the same time, like, I think with that being said, young people are in this kind of dystopic moment where it's like we know that the climate crisis is here, but also we need a livable wage. And how do we do both? How do we hold space for both things? And so we're the first generation that has had to grapple with that it's not just about graduating university and getting a decent job and living a 9-to-5 life. We have to think about what's happening to the planet right now. And we're the first generation among future generations that's going to have to live with the consequences of what's happening to the planet. And so therefore we need to really invest in Gen Z leadership because we are very well aware of the issues. We know how these industries need to pivot. We know we need to move away from fossil fuels. We know we need to move away from extractive industries. We need a just transition towards a renewable energy future. And Gen Z young people get that so clearly and should be in those positions of power, should be getting all of the resources to get them there. And I think that's the gap. It's like we care so much, we're so passionate, but we just don't have the funding or the infrastructure to know what we do with that passion. And so I think that's where intergenerational dialogue comes into play. That's where people who do have resources, money, power, and influence should listen to young people, bring them into convenings. Don't treat them as just the tokenized youth voice in the room. Bring them in as an actual consultant. Bring them in as just one of these experts that you would bring in like anyone else, because we have the expertise and can help you pivot to be thinking about that. So yeah, take our expertise seriously, pay us for what we're worth, and think about the ways that you're gonna keep us in your organizations, not push us out.
Nicely said. Mayor Smith, in that same vein, so, thinking about that, how would you recommend that leaders, managers, colleagues think about this multi-dimensional, multi-generational workforce that we are sort of seeing these days? Obviously, we've always had multiple generations in the workforce, but Kristy did point out that there are differences that maybe, make this generation potentially more unique.
I agree, Chris 100%. When it comes down to this generation and we're talking about leadership, a lot of people, pretty much where I'm from, are afraid to give them the opportunity to make a difference in those spaces. A lot of young people are afraid of the answer no. When I was before I became mayor, I was always told no, but I didn't let no deter me because I knew somebody's always waiting to tell me yes. And I always pursued the yes, regardless of what the no was, because that was just a barrier that I can overcome. And so when you're getting into leadership, you have to have a greater mindset that people are always going to tell me no. People want to find ways to pick and challenge my mindset, but I got to continue to stay focused and pursue. And as far as young people, a lot of young people are stepping up to the table in those conversations because. And when we talk about developing policies, we're talking about ideas, it's good to bring young people to the table because they can give you their point of view. And Chris was saying about honesty. Yes, we're very honest because I know I am 100%. And also, honesty, I'm a type of guy that I'm a go-getter. I can talk, but the next day I'm in somebody's office having a conversation because I feel like those conversations and us as young people need to get more involved. But what do we do when we have people that tell us, stay in your place, or I don't think that's a benefit to you. Then we have young people backing off the gun, but I was always told that, but me, I always continued to press forward because I knew that I can make a difference. I can make a change in my community based off a conversation that I had. And every person that I've encountered with before I became mayor, I had a lot of people tell me no. I had some that tell me yes. But I always continued to fight because I knew there was something that greater that could be done for the generation. And since I became mayor, a lot of the young people are trying to get into those areas of power to make the difference. And a lot of people are intimidated because those young people are more educated or teaching them things they should already know. And a lot of people are intimidated by that. And it's not to intimidate you, it's just to move forward. Because we have to move forward. We can't continue to go backwards. And I just believe that we're going to see a greater good this next year with young people in those positions, in those areas to make a difference. Regardless of what people tell them, we're just going to continue to press forward.
Push forward. I like it.
Yeah.
I want to end with just one thought here. You know, obviously the two of you are incredibly successful. I think anyone in this room would hire you guys instantaneously, no doubts. But, you know, for folks that are sort of grappling with the idea of what Gen Z brings to the table as a workforce, in just a couple of words, what's the opportunity here for employers? Kristy?
I would say innovation. I keep hearing the word innovation thrown around here, but yet innovation and young people have not been in the same sentence. I think definitely investing in youth leadership, in youth entrepreneurs, people who are the next generation who are building the solutions that make sense for their communities. I think there's a huge opportunity for people who want to invest in solutions to be investing in these young leaders because they are going to build out networks and future companies and organizations and other entities that I think everyone should hop on board onto if they want to remain relevant in the future.
Right. Mayor Smith, any quick thoughts?
I would say determined. Young people be determined to do anything they want to do. Again, like Kristy said, you got to get the young people at the table involved in those conversations. And I know that they'll be determined to find solutions or come with ideas that can help the company or the businesses thrive. Because I believe that no idea is too small, no question is no dumb question, because that question or that solution can be the problem that you're looking for. But you may not admit it, but it's something that you're looking for. And it happened with me all the time when I'm in those conversations with people back in Arkansas. They've been suffering with a problem over 40-some years. But I come in with a fresh idea. They may tell me no, but they go back and implement what that idea I've said. But I don't go to a point where that's my idea, because I know I was determined to help. And my job and my purpose is determined to help people thrive and be more successful in leadership.
Well, innovation, determination, sounds like a winning combination. Thank you both so much for your insights today. Really, really very much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.